Welcome to Volleyball Stats 9000. I designed this app to give me a simple way to keep track of some key stats for an under 16 team I coached, to help them see some key actions that help them win, or in some cases lose a match. It's evolved into a tool that helps me scout upcoming matches, manage the lineup before a game, mind the rotations and substitutions during a match, and then review stats after the match to help me plan training sessions. Let's dive in. So this is Volleyball Stats 9000. I'll launch it. This is what it looks like. It is designed to run on the iPad first and foremost. There is another video called Getting Started with Volleyball Stats 9000 on iPhone that you can check out if you want to try to run this app on your phone. So the very first thing I wanted to solve, the issue I wanted to solve with this app, was to be able to enter in a roster really quickly in the most frictionless way possible. So what we can do here is we can just type in the player's name. I have a keyboard attached, so it'll be a little bit different. We'll start with just a fictional roster here. You can put in numbers, or you can leave them off. If you do put in numbers after space, after the person's name, it will parse that and add it as the number. For example, we'll just get Deirdre there with no number attached. Allie will have 3. So you can see it was designed to be pretty straightforward and easy. It will autocomplete for you. And we can see that we're also getting the positions on the court. So when we have to fill out our pre-game roster and the lineup sheet, we've already got that kind of laid out for us. We'll pick a libero there as well, and maybe we'll add one more player. So on this screen, we can also specify the name of the match. If it's versus a certain opponent, we could specify the date by tapping up here. We also have some other options. Those will be covered in another more advanced video. But once we have our roster entered, and if I want to change any of these, imagine Deirdre gets a number. I'm going to drag to the right. Just tap on here and drag to the right, like you do in most lists. And I can enter in her new number here. And I can even tap and drag up to the original spot. So I could reorder some of my roster here before I even start the match. And so we'll keep it simple. We're going to go and start our match now. This is what the interface looks like once we've started a match. We have our live match over here on the sidebar. In fact, if I want to get a bit more room for my lineup, I'll just tap on that icon in the upper left-hand corner so that I get the people on the court all highlighted in the center. At its simplest, we can track some key stats like serve rating. So imagine we have the serve now. I'll go tap on the serve button. We're starting the match off. We can rate on a scale from 4 to 0. There'll be another video talking about what these ratings mean and how we're using them. We can track hitting stats. So over here on the right-hand side for each player card, we have a kill where they put the ball away, and a hitting attempt, or an error. If they're in the front row, we can also track blocks. We can track digs for anybody. And when we side out, for example, if we serve the ball into the net, we're now receiving serve. We now have a passing option, so we can tap on pass and rate them on a scale of 0 to 3. I'll go into a lot of these stats and what they mean and how I use them in a future video. But in game, I use this to keep track of the rotation, so I know who's in the back row, I know who's serving. or when we've had a side out, or the opponent has had a side out, and now we're trying to get a side out ourselves. It'll keep track of timeouts. So if you just tap that button when you call a timeout, you know that you only have one left. And if you want to sub someone in, you can just tap on a sub. They'll be highlighted in yellow. And then tap on the player card. Tap on the player card, and the player is subbed in. Now we've got Kate on the bench and Alex in. Now sometimes I find that it's handy to lock my screen orientation. I'm walking around a lot. If I have this iPad in my hands while I'm coaching the match, I might be waving it around quite a bit. If you go up to the upper right-hand corner of your screen up here and you drag down, I often like to put on orientation lock. That's this item here, just so that no matter how much I wave the iPad around, it's not going to keep flipping all over the place on me. So let's imagine we're receiving serve first. We'll take a few stats here. We'll have Monica have a perfect pass. She got a 3. And then Natalie got the ball set to her, and she put it away for a kill. So the ball goes back to us, so I'm going to go over and tap on the rotate button. The serve rater comes up automatically. If it doesn't, you can always tap on this button. We'll say serve, and then these will roll out. And imagine, as happens in a lot of leagues, we get an ace on our first serve. Excellent. So we've just gotten a pass or a point. And then on our second serve, as also happens in a lot of leagues, we get an error. So now imagine we're receiving serve again. We'll have Deirdre pass this one. It's an okay pass, so it's a 2. But we wind up giving a free ball over the net, and then we block the opponent's attack. So we'll give Megan a block there. In this case, we get the ball back, so we're going to rotate. Natalie's now the server. And we're playing a game to not many points, so imagine the game is over. So at this stage, we would hit end game. We'll get a little dialogue asking us if we want to end the game, just to avoid any accidental hits of the button. So we hit end game. And then we go into this state where we're able to reset up our lineup. If you're coaching a youth team, you might want to sub in lots of new players. So you might say, actually, we'll bring Kate back on. We'll put her on back on for Alex. We'll put Francesca on for Deirdre. And we might want to rotate around and have Kate get first serve. So when we're ready, once we've set up our lineup, we can hit start game. We'll talk about those other options at the top in the advanced video. Now imagine Kate's having a bad day. She serves an error straight off the bat. The other team serving at us, they serve at Kate because she just made a mistake. They're kind of picking on her a little bit. She has a bad pass. She gets aced. And then we get a decent pass off of Megan. Maybe not a decent pass. And they set Kate in the back row and she hits the ball into the net. Now you'll note that when a player gets 3 errors, a little badge will show up. They'll be highlighted in red, just so that you can have a quick view into who might be struggling in that particular match. You can see each player in the match gets their own row. It's alphabetized based on who's on the court, and then the subs are also alphabetized. We get stats for the game in progress, as well as our team's stats for the game in progress. And then we get match stats. Now those are only for the games that have already finished. And if I go over to the Game 1 tab, I can see we had 2 total serves there. We got an ace and an error. We had a kill here for another point. And we had a block for another point. In the very latest release, you'll see that there's a graph view at the very bottom. This is an experimental little feature I added. This game is not going particularly well for us. We've had 3 errors in a row. And this just gives you a look at the latest estimated run of points to see when we've given away points and when we've earned them. You can see in this game, we're not doing particularly well. It's estimated that we're down 0-3. And in this game, we had a nice little run there, lost a point and then earned it back. And you can see if we're below the line, we are losing. And if we're above the line, we are ahead. So imagine we played both of these games to 3 points. We're fine ending in a tie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say end match. Again, we get another prompt asking us if we really want to end it, because this is going to save our stats so we can analyze them later. So to see historical stats, we're just going to go up and open up the sidebar if it's not already open. You can see I've got quite a few matches here. This is the one from today. If I haven't named it, it'll just show you the date. And if you realize later, oh, I should have named that match, you can always go tap on here, hit rename, and say, call it the sample match for the video, and then that'll show up here in the list as well. Again, as I mentioned, you can see the match totals now that we've finished both games. We can see the match totals to maybe have an idea of where we had a lot of errors or we had a lot of points. You can also go and have a look at specific players. If you tap on the name, you'll see a player card that gives you their stats for the match. This is kind of handy to maybe send over. When you hit the share button here, it'll share an image of this page so that your players can have a look at how well they did in a particular match if you want to share this with them. When we go back, we also notice that we have a notes tab. I'll use this a lot for just making notes of what we want to work on in practice, or maybe something that I saw. Maybe players were out of position or they were in the wrong position entirely, playing defense. So I'll make notes in here on defensive position, and then maybe we need more kills. When I'm done leaving my notes, I can just tap the pencil icon again. That saved it, and we're good to go. Now, you can share these stats in a couple different ways. You'll also note that we have the graph as well that shows you the trends in the game. You can tap on this icon here that's highlighted to export a JSON copy of the stats. These can be shared with someone who also has the Volleyball Stats 9000 app. Or you can export these as a comma-separated values file where you can inspect all the stats dumped from the match and all the details that maybe you don't see in the interface of the app just yet. So in addition to viewing the stats, as I mentioned, when you can export the stats, you can also import stats. So you would just pick a JSON file, say open, and that will open a new file. Now I already have this imported here, so it didn't add a new item to the list. And you'll also note that Volleyball Stats 9000 has built-in iCloud support. So if you've logged in iCloud on your device, your matches will be synced to iCloud and to other devices with the app installed that you own. In addition to tracking live matches, we can also prepare for matches coming up. You'll note that previous rosters are saved. My latest one that I just used here was added. So I'm going to select that same team. Maybe we've got another match coming up. It'll populate it here, so if I do want to make changes, I can make changes in here. So to scout a match, I can hit this Set Up Match button. This will look very like the Live Match button. In fact, I'm going to hide the sidebar so I have more room. And just like with the Live Match, I can go to the Scouting Report tab, and I can add notes about our opponent for that day. Maybe I want to note hitters that are swinging a certain way in the hitting lines, or I've been chatting to other coaches, or I may be sitting there watching some of their matches, and I want to add some information about this opponent that we have coming up. You'll note in the sidebar that we'll have a new item here. In addition to the history section, we'll have an upcoming matches section. And that's where you'll find your matches that you want to scout. I can also, while I'm scouting this, finish my scouting report, go back to on court, and I can adjust my lineup before the match starts. Maybe sub in players that will perform better against this particular team. I can also add players in-game. So either in this setup phase or actually during the game. I can tap on this Add button at the end of the subs list. And I can add new players. So I'm going to add in Angela. And I can either hit the return key or I can hit the Add button. So I have a new player that I can now sub in. And I can do this also even if I start the match. Maybe it's just a friendly we're trying to track. I can even add players well after the fact. So there's no panic if someone arrives late to your match and you want to add them in and still be able to track stats on them. Imagine we get serve. We serve 3. The next serve, I actually thought I kind of prematurely guessed that it was going to be an ace, and I tapped the 4. But then the other team managed to recover and get the ball back over, so I need to get rid of that stat that I accidentally hit the button on. I can go over here to the undo button, which will light up when we do have stats captured. And I can either tap on that, and the stat will go away. I can go over and check it out in live stats. So now she only has 1 total serve. And I can reassign it a 3. Maybe I can track a few other stats here. We have a few attempts. Obviously, we're not tracking serves here. Now, if I go down to this little disclosure arrow next to the undo button, that will bring up a little popover with a list of all the stats that I've captured so far in the order I've captured them. So those are the main features of Volleyball Stats 9000. If you want to get some of the other features of the app and you want to dig more into what these things mean, like track passing and auto libero tracking and tracking subs, check out the Advanced Volleyball Stats 9000 video. Or if you want to see the app's features when you run it on your iPhone, check out the Getting Started with Volleyball Stats 9000 on the phone video.